Hello everyone and welcome to our channel. We are coming to you live from Main Street in Newcrest. As you can see, we have a slightly new setup and I hope you're really going to enjoy it. This week's build, we are continuing on in that 40 by 30 lot, like I said, in Newcrest. Last week we built a craft store, a butcher shop, and a bookstore. And this week we are building a craft store, a jewelry store, and a restaurant. And also on that left side there, I could have connected all the buildings, but I decided to leave it open because I really wanted a nice outdoor space for the Sims to go. And as you'll see later, I set up some food carts. There's a nice fountain. I really wanted some outdoor space and not for everything to be so built up and full of concrete. Always got to bring that nature into these builds. So that's where I'm going with that. Right now we're just working on the outside structure here. The craft shop, the antique store. See, I'm getting these confused now. The antique store. I've had this idea now for maybe a month, so this is a newer idea. I was just kind of thinking, all right, if I was going shopping in this older section of town, what would there be? There's always an antique store in these little old towns. So I figured I had to put an antique store in. And it's kind of interesting, antiques wise. I've never been into antiques really in my life until a little bit more recent, and I'm still not huge into antiques, but my husband and I had discovered this really cool antique mall in Colorado, like one of our favorite vacationing spots. And it's almost become like a tradition that every year we go out there, we go to the antique mall. Although sadly, the last year we went, we didn't have time for it. It's so sad. I don't know. It's so cool. And I think part of it is a lot of that older history from the West versus the eastern part of the United States. So you get a lot of like mining equipment and miners equipment, and I don't know, I think that's kind of interesting. Like one of the places always has a ton of really old like miners headlamps or just lanterns, and I just get a whole different feel out there versus where I am in the Midwest. I love that place. And I find something every time we go. And it's not necessarily like something huge. There's just always something really small and cool that I just really like. Right now with the build, I'm building this little showpiece area. So a lot of antique stores you'll go in are kind of sectioned off because you have different people bringing their items in and then they get commission. I didn't want to completely do that with the shop because I wanted everything to be open and bright, but I have a couple little areas that I figured it's like, okay, like these tables might be somebody's, and then that was maybe somebody's display, and then putting a ton of clutter into there, because if you've been to antique stores, you know they usually are completely filled. Every little nook and cranny has something in it, unless maybe you're going to a very high-end place and then they have less stuff. But I don't know, in my house, would I like that much clutter and that much stuff? Absolutely not. Going to an antique store, I don't know, it's fun. It's really fun. But then again, for me, I don't know if any of you are like this. I get so overwhelmed. Like, I like that there's so much stuff to see, but my brain can't really process it. And if someone else is trying to show me something or talk to me, and my mom will know this, I'm like, yeah. I'm so distracted. Like, I kind of hear whoever, but I don't. I don't know. I'm so overwhelmed. And then I have to go back like 3 or 4 times because I always miss something. I don't know, but then that's part of the experience. So I was trying to recreate that here, obviously, but I didn't want to go like too over the top with way too much clutter. I don't know. In The Sims, and if you actually want this to be a retail lot, which you can, it might just be a little too much. And routing issues for Sims, they need to be able to get in and look at stuff, and if it's way too cluttered, you may have issues. So, as I've said before in previous videos, I do play test these lots. So, excuse me. Anything that I find that doesn't work, I will change. So if things are slightly different in the end result, that's why. So you can always be sure if you get this off the gallery, everything does function. I will say again, with all this stuff that's put on the shelves and I've kind of moved it and it's not snapped in, you will have to go in game and snap stuff to the tables and the shelves if you actually want to mark it for sale. Otherwise, the Sims can't get to it. They won't be able to sell it. That will be the issue there. So just so you know, you will have to go in and snap stuff. Some stuff is, some stuff isn't. Alrighty, so upstairs we go. And this area I created to be where all the bigger pieces of furniture are. So if you're the super serious antique shopper and you're looking for big pieces of furniture, this is where you go. So it's a little less cluttered up here, and yeah, I figured a bedroom set and some things like that. And then this wall is going to be covered with all sorts of paintings and clocks and all that fun stuff. I knew I definitely wanted a whole wall that was gonna be just completely paintings. So here it is. I decided the downstairs I wanted to be like old mirrors. I really like how that turned out. I like how this turned out. But yeah, a lot of your really big pieces of furniture are all up here. And downstairs, you could mark like those tables for sale. I put in some older tables because I figured that might be part of like what people are trying to sell. But anyways, back on the antique stores, one of my favorite things that I've found at an antique store, and it was one of the places in Colorado, was, and I don't know that it was antique necessarily, it probably wasn't, but it was, oh, actually I got a few of Egyptian perfume bottles. Oh, I don't know, if you have not seen them before, you should check them out. They're really pretty. So you need like a oil-based kind of perfume to put in them. And even if you don't want to put perfume in them, I think they're so pretty. I do have some nice quality perfume that I have in mind, and I don't actually have somewhere to display them yet. I really need to do that. I just love those. They are so pretty. They're made of glass, and I'm okay, so something that maybe some of you don't know, people closer to me know, or maybe you've picked this up on Twitter. I am hugely into Egyptology. I have just always found it absolutely fascinating. So anything like Egyptian, I'm very much into. In a different life, I would have definitely been an Egyptologist. I don't know, for you, I think that's boring. I don't know. Just looking back at, it's just old cultures in general. Looking back to see what was left behind of these civilizations thousands of years ago, that it's still intact, that it's still there, and like the architecture, that it was built to last, it was quality built, that it's still there, I find absolutely fascinating. Maybe you're like, oh, I'm still boring. I don't know. That's just always been something I've been extremely fascinated with. Because of that, I really enjoyed The Sims 3 World Adventures. If they brought that back for The Sims 4, I would be so happy. I feel like they wouldn't bring back an Egyptian world, but oh my gosh, I would so love to bring that back. I loved going to that world. It was almost like having a little vacation. I had fun in the other worlds too, but I really like that pack. Now we are gonna turn our attention here to the jewelry store. We have had some leaks lately about possibly getting a game pack revolving around romantic things. Like, many people are speculating that it's going to be more of a wedding-based game pack. So if that is the case, then this is perfect for your sim that wants to get engaged and go buy their ring here. I did actually, in that front display area, I put a lot of little diamond rings that were in debug. That was one of the things scrolling through debug, and I saw that ring and I'm like, I gotta make a jewelry store. So I did. Right here is the safe. I figured this place needs a safe. So I put a lot of like little polished jewels and stuff in there, and those jewels, you gonna come out fun? He's grumpy again. Those jewels come with Jungle Adventure. If you don't have that pack, not a huge deal. You could just put some other like crystals and gems in there, or you can have it empty, whatever. In my mind, this place was not always a jewelry store. So as I said in the last episode, my whole idea for this was older, like late 1800s kind of tiny American town. And maybe some of these places have been there a long time, like the butcher shop, I figured maybe has been there all that time. I don't feel like this place has been here the whole time. In my mind, this used to be a bank. And that's why there's a huge safe. So a jewelry company came in and bought this place up and figured it would be perfect to store all their jewels and gold in. A lot of these jewels here will not actually be able to be reached by Sims because I either use tool or I raise them up. Like those display cases, I put little cushions and then put the gems on them. I figured that was a nicer display tactic and that looked good. If you want to sell those, you can just get rid of it and they will fit into those display cases, or you can leave it. And like that display case in the back with those crystals, you can sell those. That back case, everything is accessible. So there's certain things, and maybe you only want certain things to sell. It's totally up to you. A lot of this is for looks, kind of like the butcher shop in the last one. This is functional as a retail shop. Right now we're on the 3rd level. This 3rd level, I figured this is where the jeweler, the goldsmith, the gemologist, this is where they all work behind the scenes to make your diamonds look pretty, shape your gold, and all that fun stuff. So this was a workspace I created up here. And I figured also an employee break room and lots of filing and the business end of things. So this isn't as functional really for the retail side, except yeah, it's a place for your employees to go. I did not put like a couch or anything for relaxing, and maybe I should have done that. Whoopsies. You can add that in. I end up closing this off in a little bit because I realized security wise, this should not be accessible to the public. So you will be able to lock this and make it for employees only. And there's a lot of those little places in this whole entire build. So if you use it for retail, go ahead and just lock it and have it be employees only, and then you won't have customers wandering places that they shouldn't. If The Sims releases a game pack based all around weddings, do you think they'll add a jewelry store where your Sims can go and get a ring to get engaged? Otherwise, what else do you think they're going to include? I know a lot of us are thinking about that. Jewelry stores, are there going to be bridal shops, or who knows, maybe this has nothing to do with weddings. We'll see, I guess, in a little bit. But if you have ideas about what you think is going to be in the game, I'd love to hear what they are. And it's always kind of fun to speculate and kind of guess what we might get. And it builds up the excitement a little bit, I guess, for new Sims content. We are now on our last building here. We are building the restaurant. At first, I wasn't quite sure. I was thinking maybe like just a typical American diner, nothing fancy, kind of one of those places that, okay, if you live in the United States, like truck stop food, or just like one of those places that you go for breakfast and the food's not that great. I was kind of thinking that at first, and then I don't know what changed my mind, and I'm like, I want to do a British pub. This is going to be like English pub inspired. And I'm not necessarily designing Newcrest as like a British English world, but I really wanted to do like an English pub. So that's what I'm doing here. You'll see in a little bit that I put a lot of like decorations on the wall from our European and British inspired packs like this. Did this come with Get Together? I think this was Get Together, and then I used stuff from Cottage Living and Discover University. So I don't know, we had enough stuff in the game that I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. This is the place you go for fish and chips. Which I could totally go for right now. That sounds great. That with a glass of beer? You'll have to tell me now if you like fish and chips or what other yummy English British food that you guys really like. Well, we are going to wrap things up. Stick around for the end of the video because there will be a tour of the build. I really hope you enjoyed this series, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. And next week we will be back with a fun, creative build once again. And we'll see you then. Bye!